Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on Little Women by Louisa May Alcott.
Oh, a classic.
It is.
Yeah.
But we're not just looking at the novel itself. We
Ah.
got excerpts and character sketches,
Yeah.
even a pretend playbill that the March sisters created.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like we're getting a secret peek into their world beyond the pages of the book.
I like that.
I'm already picturing Jo scribbling away in the attic.
Uh-huh.
Amy, lamenting over her purple dress with yellow skyrockets on it.
Right.
And that hobgoblin-filled valley from their childhood game.
Yes. What's really intriguing is how these snippets offer us a glimpse into the March family.
Yeah.
At different moments in time, almost like snapshots of their lives unfolding.
It's making me want to dust off my own copy of Little Women. There's always something new to discover with that book.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the basics. I mean, we all know the March family, but what makes these excerpts special is the way they introduce us to each sister's personality.
Exactly. It's more than just a list of names we see. Meg, the eldest, drawn to pretty things.
Yeah.
And dreaming of a traditional life.
Right.
Then there's Jo, our headstrong writer, bursting with ambition and challenging those traditional roles.
Yes. And let's not forget Beth, the heart of the family, so gentle and musical.
Oh, she is.
It makes you wonder if her character was inspired by Alcott's own sister Lizzie, who was also musically gifted.
It's certainly possible. Alcott drew heavily from her own family life when writing Little Women.
Yeah.
And then we have Amy, the youngest,
Yes.
striving for refinement, and let's be honest, a bit dramatic at times.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But that's part of her charm, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Each sister is so distinct. And we see those personalities driving their choices as they grow up.
Right.
Meg navigating the world of wealth and society.
Yeah.
Jo's struggling to tame her temper.
Yeah.
Beth facing illness with quiet strength. It makes you think about your own journey of growing up, doesn't it?
It does.
Which sister's path resonates with you most right now?
That's a question worth pondering.
I think so.
And it speaks to the power of Alcott's writing, even in these short excerpts.
Yeah.
We see the universality of their experiences.
Right.
It's not just about being a March sister. It's about the challenges and triumphs we all face as we come of age.
Okay, now let's delve into some of the bigger themes that emerge from these excerpts.
Okay.
Obviously, family is at the heart of Little Women.
Of course.
But I'm curious to explore the nuances of how Alcott portrays love, sacrifice, and sisterhood.
The excerpts really highlight how those themes are intertwined.
Yeah.
The sisters may squabble, tease, and have their differences,
Right.
but they ultimately stand by each other through thick and thin.
Like when they give up their Christmas breakfast for the Hummels,
Yes.
a family struggling nearby.
Right.
It's a simple act, but it speaks volumes about their compassion
Absolutely.
and willingness to put others' needs before their own.
And it goes beyond grand gestures. Think about the scene where they're huddled together, working on their Christmas play. It's a small moment, but it captures the essence of their bond.
Right.
Finding joy and support in shared activities, even amidst their everyday lives.
Speaking of shared activities, I have to mention the playbill for The Greek Slave or Constantine the Avenger.
Oh, yes.
This thing is hilarious.
It is.
It's a reminder of the power of imagination, especially in childhood.
It also reveals a lot about each sister's personality.
Oh, yeah.
The hints section.
Yes.
If S.P. didn't use so much soap on his hands, he wouldn't always be late for breakfast. That's classic Jo calling out her sisters with a mix of teasing and affection.
It feels like we're right there with them in the attic watching them stage their elaborate production.
I know, it's great.
You can practically hear the laughter and feel the energy.
Yes.
It makes you wonder if Alcott based these plays on real-life games she played with her sisters.
It's quite likely. And these glimpses beyond the main narrative add such depth to our understanding of Little Women.
Yeah.
It's not just a coming-of-age story. It's a celebration of childhood creativity and the power of those early experiences to shape who we become.
Absolutely. These excerpts remind us that there's more to the March sisters than what's on the pages of the novel.
Yeah,
They had rich inner lives, dreams and aspirations that went beyond the traditional roles expected of women in their time.
Yes, very true.
Which, of course, leads us to explore each sister's individual journey.
Okay.
Let's start with Meg, shall we?
Sure.
She seems to embody those traditional aspirations more than her sisters.
Right.
But there's more to her story than meets the eye.
Oh, definitely. Meg's journey is a fascinating one because it challenges the assumption that traditional aspirations are somehow less fulfilling. It's easy to look at Meg's desire for a lovely home and family
Yeah.
and dismiss it as simply conforming to societal expectations.
Right.
But Alcott portrays her choice with a depth that makes us reconsider.
That's a great point. It's like today we might think, oh, Meg just wants to be a housewife. But back then, creating a stable and loving home was a huge accomplishment,
It was.
especially with the backdrop of the Civil War and its economic hardships.
Exactly. And Meg's not just passively accepting her role, she's actively working to create the kind of home she wants. One filled with love, warmth, and simple joys.
Right, like remember how carefully she manages their limited household budget.
Yes. Or the pride she takes in creating a welcoming space for her family.
Yeah.
It's not about being passive, it's about finding fulfillment in those domestic choices.
Which makes her marriage to John Brooke even more meaningful.
Yes.
He's not wealthy or flashy, but he's dependable and genuinely loves Meg for who she is.
He does.
And the relationship reminds us that home isn't just a place. It's about finding that sense of belonging.
Right.
And connection with someone who shares your values.
Speaking of finding your place, we can't forget about Jo.
Oh, no.
She's a firecracker, constantly pushing against societal expectations and forging her own path. But even with all her independent spirit, Jo also struggles to find that sense of belonging.
Her journey is so relatable, especially for anyone who's ever felt like they didn't quite fit in.
Absolutely.
She wants to be a writer, a profession not widely accepted for women at the time.
Right.
And her tomboyish nature clashes with the societal expectations of how a young lady should behave.
Her early writing is a great example of this inner conflict.
Oh, really?
Those sensational stories she pens for the weekly paper. They're so full of drama and over-the-top characters, it's almost as if she's trying on different identities.
Right.
Trying to find a voice that feels authentic to her.
It's like she's saying, I don't have to conform to your idea of what a woman should write. I can be bold. I can be dramatic. I can be me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet we see her grow beyond those initial attempts. She learns to balance her creative impulses with discipline.
Right.
And hones her craft through practice and feedback. It's a reminder that finding your voice, whether in writing or any other creative pursuit, is a process of experimentation and refinement.
It makes you wonder if Alcott saw a bit of herself in Jo.
Possibly.
Given her own struggles to get published early in her career.
There's definitely a parallel there. And what's interesting about Jo's development is that it's not just about her writing. She also learns to manage her temper, to be more patient with her sisters, and to value different perspectives. Her relationship with Amy, especially after the incident with the burned manuscript, is a testament to that growth.
Oh, that burned manuscript. It's still hard to read that scene without feeling Jo's anger and Amy's guilt.
I know.
But ultimately, it becomes a turning point in their relationship. They learn to forgive, to communicate, and to see each other's vulnerabilities.
Which brings us to a point I think is often overlooked. Little Women isn't just a feel-good story about sisterly love. It delves into the complexities of those relationships, the conflicts, the resentments, the moments when forgiveness is hard-won.
It's those realistic portrayals that make the characters so relatable. We see ourselves in their struggles, their triumphs, and those messy moments that define any close relationship. And speaking of complexity, Beth's journey is one that often leaves readers with a mix of emotions.
Beth is such a unique character.
She is.
She's quiet, gentle, almost ethereal, and her illness casts a shadow over the entire story.
Right.
But what's remarkable is how Alcott portrays her not as a victim, but as a source of strength and inspiration for her family.
Her love for music, her kindness towards others, her unwavering faith, even in the face of her illness, these qualities shine through in the excerpts.
They do.
Remember the scene where she comforts Jo after the skating accident? It's a small moment, but it reveals Beth's ability to see the good in everyone, even when they're at their worst.
And her acceptance of her fate, her focus on comforting her loved ones, rather than dwelling on her own pain, it's deeply moving and speaks to a level of emotional maturity that's often overlooked because of her quiet nature.
It makes you think about how we define strength. It's not always about being loud or assertive. Sometimes it's about the quiet resilience, the inner peace that radiates outwards and touches those around us.
And finally, we come to Amy, the youngest March sister, who often gets a bad rap. People see her as spoiled or frivolous. But I think her journey is one of the most compelling because it's all about growth and self-discovery.
I agree. Amy starts out as this somewhat self-centered child, But she evolves so much throughout the story.
She does.
Remember her initial obsession with material possessions and social status?
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to judge her for that, but it's important to remember that she's the youngest, still figuring things out.
And she has this incredible artistic drive.
Yes.
Think about her struggles with her drawing. She gets frustrated, wants to give up.
Yeah.
But ultimately, she perseveres.
She does.
It's a reminder that talent alone isn't enough.
Right.
It takes dedication, discipline, and a willingness to learn from mistakes.
Her trip to Europe is a turning point for her, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's like she finally steps out of her sister's shadows and starts to define herself on her own terms.
Yes.
Her letters from Europe are filled with observations about art, architecture, and the people she encounters. It's like she's finally finding her voice, her perspective on the world.
And her marriage to Laurie?
Yes.
While initially surprising to some readers, actually makes sense when you consider her growth.
It does.
She's no longer the childish girl who envied Meg's attention. She's a mature young woman who can appreciate Laurie's artistic sensibilities and offer him companionship and support.
Their relationship challenges the idea that people can't change or that first impressions are always accurate.
Right.
Amy's journey is a testament to the fact that growth is a lifelong process. And that even the most seemingly superficial characters can surprise us with their depth and capacity for change.
We've talked about how each sister seeks her place in the world, but what strikes me is how Little Women also explores the idea of home in a deeper sense.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about four walls and a roof.
You're right. It's about finding that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
That place where you feel truly seen and accepted for who you are.
Meg finds it in the warmth of family life, creating a home with John.
Right.
But Jo, she initially thinks home is escaping, running off to have adventures.
And yet she eventually realizes that true belonging comes from the people who love and understand her, even with all her quirks and flaws.
Yeah.
That's what she finds with Professor Bear and in the community she builds at Plumfield.
It's like she creates her own version of home, a place that nurtures both her creativity and her need for connection.
Exactly.
And Beth, despite her fragility, seems to find home in the comfort she brings to others. Her music, her gentle spirit, her unwavering faith. These are the things that anchor her even as her health declines.
It's a reminder that home can also be a source of inner strength.
Yes.
Something we carry within us.
And then there's Amy. Remember those letters from Europe? She talks about feeling like she's finding herself amidst the art and culture.
Right.
It's as if she's searching for a home that nourishes her creative soul.
It's an important reminder that home can be a state of mind, a sense of peace and fulfillment that comes from pursuing our passions and connecting with kindred spirits.
Yeah.
It's not always about a physical place, but about finding where we truly belong, where we can be our most authentic selves.
Thinking about all of this, I'm curious, what does home mean to you listening right now?
That's a good question.
Is it a physical place, a community, a creative pursuit?
Yeah.
What makes you feel that sense of belonging, of being truly at home?
And as we wrap up our deep dive into Little Women, I think it's worth reflecting on the sisters' individual journeys.
Yeah.
We often focus on the romantic pairings, but what about their personal growth and the choices they make?
Which sister's story resonates most with you at this point in your life?
Right.
And why?
Is it Meg's embrace of traditional values? Jo's fierce independence? Beth's quiet strength, or Amy's journey of self-discovery?
What's so fascinating about Little Women is that it offers us these multifaceted characters who grapple with relatable challenges and find their own paths to happiness and fulfillment.
Absolutely.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer, and that's what makes it so enduring.
And just as the March sisters evolve and grow throughout the story, so do we, Little Women, invites us to reflect on our own journeys, the choices we make, and the things that truly matter to us. It's a story that stays with you long after you close the book.
So as we say goodbye to the March sisters for now, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to revisit this beloved classic.
Yeah.
Or maybe even discover it for the first time.
And remember, the stories we encounter, whether in literature or our own lives, have the power to shape our understanding of the world and ourselves.
That's so true.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep finding those bits of Little Women that speak to your own heart.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those pages turning and those conversations flowing.